Thank you, Susan, and thank you all. Thank you, Rebecca and David, for paving the way. What I will say very much build on your ideas and your insights. All right, so I'll talk about compassionate systems leadership. Indeed, I'm leading a program at Garrison Institute called Compassionate Leadership in Finance, CLIF, and I'm also an author of a recent book that very much deals with all these questions we're discussing today, triple value. And I'll share a couple of the models and insights that are in this book. And I'll talk also a little bit about the program that we are leading. And of course, this is why we do the work. This is basically what you all said in your previous presentations, but we're facing a poly crisis. That is, of course, a very complex systemic challenge that we are facing with many different symptoms and facets. You can say many of them are appearing on the systems level, but we also see them at an organizational level. And that's both bad and good news, because business leaders and finance leaders, they will have to deal with them. And they are dealing with them. And they show up in concepts and discussions like sustainability, ESG, but also the war on talent and DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, the whole mental health discussion, of course, the pandemic, it's not completely gone. It has completely uprooted the idea about work-life balance and working from home. And then in the background, there is this huge new development called AI that is also impacting our current business models and our current economic models in a radical way. So the key insight, I think, is that all these challenges are systemic. They have no single cause, and therefore there's also no single solution. They're impossible to solve by any individual or by any organization, yet at the same time they're impossible to ignore. And that's why we're on this call. In a way, we cannot ignore that, and that is an act of leadership, of individual and collective leadership. But then the question rises, what kind of leadership? And this is one business leader that has a wonderful quote: you cannot succeed as a leader in a system that fails. So this failing system is a challenge for leadership, is an obligation for leadership. The way we look at this is by zooming into the purpose of the system. I think this is an interesting quote of Daniela Meadows. Very interesting. She was one of the co-authors of the Club of Rome Limits to Growth report many years ago. And it's important to reflect on that. The least obvious part of the system, its function of purpose, is often the most determinant of the system behavior. Therefore, if you want to change the system, you have to change its purpose. Now, what is the purpose of our current predominant economic system? And you can also say our financial system. And if you bring it down into its essence, it is simply a triangle between production, consumption, and capital. The purpose is to generate and accumulate as much capital as possible. And that's why we are stuck with a system that is just growth obsessed, right? That is how we've structured most of our capitalistic economies and most of our organizations, right? And mostly that is also enshrined in laws and institutions. So it's not simply up to the individual to change. At the same time, when you see that is its purpose right now, and that's why we are facing what economists call a market failure, right? Because the growth, the triangle of growth, the purpose that is basically behind our business and by our market economies is not to serve society and our planet. Simply not its purpose. The purpose is to grow and accumulate capital. Now, but this is changing, as I said. The triangle of growth is being challenged by many new forces, and you can say is being forced to create a new purpose or to find a new purpose. Of course, nature, climate, biodiversity, ESG is coming in, new needs from society, and there are many new different value creation models. And so we are in what you call a systems crisis, but also in a moral or a purpose crisis, if you like. But the key here is this question mark. What is now the new purpose of the system that we need to discover and cultivate? I call it the repurposing of our economy. And I can also say repurposing of the financial system. I take it a little bit broader, but in capitalism, the financial sector and the economy are completely intertwined. So I won't really differentiate. In our programs, we do. But here, I think it's more important to see the broader perspective. Now, when we talk about the how to repurpose the system, there is an enormous, important new paradigm shift in science emerging. And that is, in economic terms, is the end of the Homo economicus, the demise of the Homo economicus, the notion that we are rational, individualistic, and selfish beings, which is an intellectual underpinning of our economic system, is being replaced by the notion that we are Homo sapiens, conscious beings in a changing context. And that means that, as a Homo sapiens, we are, our true nature is social connectedness, interconnectedness, and creativity. That's our natural state. That's basically discovery of neuroscience. Also, as conscious beings, we have potential. There is incredible human potential that can grow. Consciousness is limitless. Consciousness doesn't have any form or shape. Therefore, it has no limitations. And it can grow and it can develop. And that's also conscious. That's neuroscience, psychology, pedagogy. There is a lot of science that supports that now, which means that leadership can be developed. All right, that's the most important takeaway here. And this is the sort of model that we created, the sort of compassionate leadership, systems leadership model that we created based on science, on the new sciences, on this new economic or scientific insight. So first of all, we can become aware of this web of life, the web of stakeholders, the value chain, if you like, from shareholders, which we are preoccupied with now, serving, the accumulation of capital. But we can expand that to the needs of the employees, customers, society, and planet as a whole. So that's the open mind dimension of the consciousness that we need to develop. At the same time, there is the need for what you can call an open heart. The motivation needs to change. Now, as David already said, we are not just consumers, we're contributors. That's also part of our human nature. We want to share, we want to contribute to others, to the environment. And that's a progression from indifference to empathy and ultimately to compassion. There's a little bit of a step between empathy and compassion. I won't go in, but it's definitely something that is trainable and developable and part of leadership training these days. So if we are able to cultivate our open mind and open heart, then we will have impact on the system. Simple as that. Now, I won't share the whole model, but this is a model we are using in our programs where, as I said, we move from empathy to compassion, which is empathy is an emotion, is a very strong driver of human behavior. But compassion comes with analysis and comes with a sense of wisdom where we analyze the causes of suffering or analyze the needs of our communities, of the people around our systems, our organizations. And we are looking for ways to serve those needs and to find, solutions to their problems. So that then basically empathy turns into compassion, and compassion leads to action, becomes a motivation to act. And that's where compassion and leadership start to intersect. And if we bring that to a systems level, then we are here talking about, of course, cultivating compassion for ourselves as a sort of the foundation. We are part of the ecosystem. We're part of the web of life, right? And we are the instrument of change. So we need to take care of ourselves. But at the same time, we need to take care of our connections, our relationships in teams, in organizations, compassion for others. But then on top of that, we need to learn how to cultivate compassion for the system, the entire ecosystem and society and all the needs of all the species in that system. And all these three levels can be trained. Now, and I already said this. So what we try to do, just to keep a long story short, just a little bit of a marketing pitch here. We are training currently. We're working, I must say, because this is very much a relational thing with executives in the financial sector that do understand the need for repurposing their organizations for repurposing the systems, but they also understand that it starts with themselves and that they need to discover and develop their own inner purpose and develop their own compassionate systems awareness. So this is what we currently do at Garrison Institute, and this is our faculty, and basically this is some of the resources we have. So I want to stop share here